Hey, y'all. The goats responded anyway. How are y'all on this fine Tuesday in November? Got a little cool air finally hit us. Last night it was humid as August, but a little rain moved through this morning and the sky's cleared off. That sun's done its job. It's setting with a beautiful array of colors as only God can do. Crazy times, right? Crazy times. I think about that old 300-year-old oak tree. I'm about to have a mess with these goats. They're headed to the wrong spot. Maybe they won't go up in the neighbor's yard, but I may have to go get them here directly. But anyway, thinking about things today, of course, presence of mind, as we all know. Hope you did your civic duty. But that old tree has seen a whole lot of these days come and go. And I don't think it ever really bothered it too much. But the fear and the anger and the hate is so prevalent these days. I was talking to a good friend this morning, and we share a lot of the good stuff here on the Washboard page. Thanks all of y'all for tuning in and following along. And speaking of which, if you'll sound off maybe where you're at and where you're listening to us from, and I always enjoy reading all those comments, and sometimes I don't get to them live, but you can rest assured that over the course of the evening and tomorrow and the next few days, I'll be taking a look at them, and I always enjoy your thoughts and comments. But I almost was wondering, we talk a lot about nostalgia and the good principles that formed us as people. And I wonder sometimes if the younger set almost loses hope that there's just no way to return back to that. And kind of wanted to counter that this evening because we can in certain simple ways. We look back at things in a nostalgic fashion, and I think we all do that as we get older. But we have to realize we're living in the day we're in and not promised tomorrow. And we need to look up and to have the hope, right? But I guess all of us want some sort of control in our life, whether we be a believer or non-believer. You say no? No? You don't? I'd counter that. If you go to the store, buy a bill of groceries, as Mima used to say, or just picking up a few things, you go to the checkout. Whatever the clerk tells you it is, you give her the cash or him the cash or the card or whatever you're using, and you don't try to balance it necessarily. You just accept it as it is. But boy, when you pull up to that gas tank and you go to fill up that gas tank, if it gets to $23 and you're topping it off, and yeah, 23 ain't gonna get a full one. Not on any car I know about, but let's say it clicks there at $23.28. You just can't stand it, can you? You got to get it to that even amount, and you keep going. Then you run past $24. Well, now you got to get to 25. Lo and behold, you messed up and clicked it too long. It's $25.01, but you're about to spill over the top. Time's passed. I've spilled over the top to get to that next even number. But think about that. Funny is us as human beings, regardless of our beliefs, we want to control something, and we'll stand there and waste 15 minutes of our time, a penny click at a time, just to get to that even number. I know some folks have said that it's to balance the checkbook, but that argument doesn't really work when you accept whatever total you're at when you're buying groceries or whatever, right? You don't sit there and keep finding items in the store to get it to an even amount, right? So there's your little test to see how much you're wanting to control, right? I think we're funny that way, but I think we could do better just to relax a little bit and put our trust above and keep a little hope in our tank, right? Instead of worrying about that next nickel that comes down the pipe. I'm working on it. I was proud of that. I think I got $38.10 or something. I don't know. But then there's those that question the believers, right? Talk about that a lot here. I guess I get it from a humanistic standpoint. But I thought about something growing up. Talked to Dad this morning and over the last couple of days, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Now, my dad he still loves me, and with that comes the course of correction. when you kind of get out of sorts, you got to get pulled back in line a little bit, right? That's what it does. But I remember growing up, and y'all tell me if you can relate to any of this. So let's say you're 9, 10, 11, shoot, I was 15, 16, and Dad tells you no to whatever request you've made, right? Well, did you argue back with him? Some of y'all may have, and I'd have picked myself up off the floor if I'd have back talked. He would say no, but at least I had that fear in a loving way of that. It was yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. I'd probably got away better back talking him than back talking Mama in his presence. But he knew, for whatever reason, that his answer needed to be no in whatever situation it was. And if I got brave enough to even just meekly ask him why, usually his response was, because I said so. Right? Just simply that. And that was as good as it got. And you didn't push it any further. But I look around at today's society, and it's been this way for eons, but I guess it's more exposed with social media and our speed of communication and thoughts. So many people question why. And when we're told no, because it's good for our betterment of our living, we're wanting to question our Heavenly Father and want the answers. And He's put it all in His book. We wouldn't dare talk our earthly father back talk, but we think we've got enough gumption to back talk the creator of this universe. Isn't that funny? Well, I've learned better than that in these days. I thought of it in your high school years. Of course, a lot of us are sowing wild oats, those that don't have any sense. But let's say you wanted to go to a little old get-together or party with your buddies, and Dad said no. He just knew better for some reason. He had more facts than you did in life, just like some of us do today, looking back. But no, you bucked the system and slipped out the window and went on to the party anyway and got in a whole heap of trouble, not from sneaking out the window, but from the crowd you was running with. I've got a buddy sitting in the penitentiary today, like a son to me, and hopefully he gets out at some point. Sad story. I mentored him at a job there in Central Texas, and he was young and had a family, beautiful family, and just had a few little wild oats in his system still, and ran around with an old boy that didn't have no sense and strung out on drugs, but that was his high school buddy. Well, one evening his high school buddy decided to go give him a little baggie of stuff you put up your nose, and didn't have a ride, so my buddy took him over there to this house in a little town. His friend went in the house and was in there an extended amount of time, and when my buddy walked in to check on him, an older man lay dead and dying there on the floor. My friend of mine got wrapped up in it just because he was there and they were scared, didn't report it. Bad deal. Just goes to show he had it all, and now he's lost his family and his freedom. I guess some would say rightfully so, just by association. Dad's words always have ring true to me, and I hadn't always listened to it, but birds of a feather truly do flock together. And that's, unfortunately, sometimes we get caught up in a situation we didn't mean to be there, and by the eyes of the law, you're just as culpable. But got to be careful going against our Father's instruction, especially our Heavenly Father's instruction, right? Love and kindness. I think that's what we need to work on spreading. It'll do you good, for sure. Misperceptions, boy, isn't that today? We got people voting on both sides of the aisle, and they'll argue in the streets and on Facebook, but if they sit down, they'd realize they've got a lot more in common than they do apart. But yet we're polarized. That's what keeps us immobile and hating, because we don't understand each other like we need to. We haven't came together and reasoned together, as the good book says. Reminds me of a story of a man that stopped by a little card shop store, and he purchased 4 boxes of chocolate and 4 bouquets of flowers he headed to the counter and stood in line. As he approached the counter, the cashier filling her salt, she said, "Boy, I just hate these players. I just hate them." Well, he was calm. The rest of the crowd was looking at him with disdain. He said, "Ma'am, I'll tell you, this first set here is from my mother. My dad passed away, and my mom taught me how to love, so I wanted to reciprocate that to her. This second set here is from my wife, who taught me how to receive and cherish love. Third set's from my daughter. I want to teach her what it looks like to give gestures of love and what it means to be in love and be respected. But this fourth set, ma'am, is for you. Just want you to know that a man can show you kindness, love, and understanding without wanting anything in return." And with that, he handed that fourth set of chocolate and flowers to the little cashier at the counter. As he walked away, the cashier melted. The crowd was stunned. But I think they all learned a lesson about judgment that night. Beautiful to be that person that shows a little kindness, right? Maybe it's that homeless man asking for a couple of bucks. You give him that $2 and a passerby jeers at you, said, he's going to use that for drugs and alcohol and who knows what. Well, we have to understand that Jesus said, "Do it to the least of these." It's not our call what he does in that hour of need. With that little $2, could have bought a cup of coffee, but that's it. I guess we have to understand that it's up to him what he does with that money. If we can give it, we give. Because if we don't, it says a lot about our character, doesn't it? More than even his. So we have to learn to love. I think that's so important. And that's what we're missing today. And maybe it was the blessing of lack of information flow so many years ago, back in those old 1900s. I love saying that. I guess got to accept your age, right? Sounds so antiquated. Lord have mercy, if you're born outside of the 1900s, you're 24 today? Goodness gracious. That's something else, isn't it? But I think those that look for answers, that have shunned God and his hope, I want you to know, regardless of what you think right now, there's a man that came to this earth, Son of God, blemished life, endured many persecutions along his way. He was a good man, nothing but good acts and love. They crucified that man. He did it for you and for me. And that blood covers everything, every mistake, every failure you've had, all of it. Can't earn that grace. You can't dress good enough. You can't live good enough. You can't do enough good works to earn that grace. I think sometimes we don't understand that. We feel like we'll never be good enough to live for the good Lord. So therefore we give up and we just live our life willy-nilly. And bad as our heart tells us we need to do better, we just don't think we'd ever deserve it. His grace is sufficient. Now, with great freedom comes great responsibility. I've always heard that in regards to politics, but it so applies to the grace of the Lord. Some people use that grace to abuse it and to get away with things and to live sinful on purpose, just knowing it's going to cover it. Maybe it will. I wouldn't want to take that chance. But we don't know God's mind. We don't know the depth of that love. How can the creation question the Creator? So those of you that don't think you can do it, maybe you've lived a life that's torn and apart and you don't know how to fix it. I heard a story about that, along that line. It's kind of an illustration, if you would. A buddy of mine came to me and he had a big old sore bleeding on his head, perplexed. He said, "Man, I know you're a Christian, and would you pray for me? The doctors don't know what's causing this, and I can't get it to go away, and it's just persistent, and I just can't win." I said, "Well, I'm not a doctor, and I'll pray for you, but let me watch you a little bit and see if we can get to the bottom of it." So you began to observe your friend. lo and behold, you stay with him one evening just to kind of see how things go in his world. Well, 1 o'clock in the morning, he gets up out of bed and runs smack dab into the wall. Goes and lays back down. 2 o'clock, same thing. This goes on all night for 24 hours. You see this man get up and run smack dab into the wall. Lays back down. Well, you approach your friend and say, man, I'm not a doctor, but I think I have figured out what's causing that wound. You keep running headlong into a wall every time. So maybe that's some of our problem. We kick against the pricks, as the good book says. And although we know where the answer lies and the hope lies, we just keep hitting the wall. Another beautiful story about Grace. Little boy had a BB gun. He loved that BB gun. Wasn't no good at it. He was just young. But he'd go out in the back of his grandmother's place and target practice on little cans and trinkets around the place. And couldn't ever hit anything like he needed to. Well, one evening he was walking back up toward the house, and his grandmother had a couple of prize ducks there on the place, and he thought he was salty enough. He aimed at one of them, had it in his little sights there, and fired, and the duck fell dead. He couldn't believe he had hit it, and then it hit him that that was his grandmother's duck. What was he going to do? He had committed a cardinal sin in her book and killed her beloved duck. So he ran over behind the wood pile and buried the little duck and looked up, and his sister was watching. And she said, well, I saw what you did there. I'm not going to tell her, but you're going to have to do everything I say. Well, now he's locked into his sin, locked into his mistake, held down and bound. That evening they were in the house, and Grandpa said, we're going fishing in the morning. Johnny, get ready to go. Well, his little sister said, no, I'm going fishing and you're staying here. So he told his grandpa that he couldn't go and take little Susie instead, even though he loved to fish. Next morning at breakfast, it was time to do the dishes. Well, that was something Susie and her grandmother did together, but she whispered to Johnny, she said, you better get in there and do those dishes. I ain't doing it. If you don't, I'm telling. So bound by his chains of sin, something he was trying to hide, he reluctantly went and helped Grandma with the dishes. Susie took off with Grandma, and they went fishing. He was sitting there in the living room, and sad and bound. Crying he was. His grandmother said, baby, what's wrong? He said, Grandma, I've made a horrible mistake. Yesterday I shot one of your ducks and killed it. And the reason I'm having to do all these things is because Susie's got a hold on me and was going to tell you, but I just can't live with it. Grandmother looked at him with all the love in her eyes and said, Johnny, I saw what happened yesterday. I forgave you when you did it. I just needed you to come talk to me with it. You're forgiven. Isn't that grace? That's grace in my book. Beautiful story. So you've not went too far that his grace couldn't cover you. So I'd encourage you to read that old book for yourself and lean into him. He can make it all right. Now, on another note, get on my little soapbox here, and I'm a wretch of a man. If you put your stock in a man, you are behind the curve. That's another one that Dad has always taught me through different ministers or heroes in your life. That's not where it's at. Man is fallible. He's going to make mistakes. You got to look past that to the good and the light that he might shine. But as Christians, I see a lot of us fearful, and we talk about that a lot, don't we? Well, in my book, I heard a gentleman say this the other day, and it resonates. Fear is looking backward, right? You know, running in fear, looking backward. Faith is driving forward with your eyes set on the prize. And I'll be honest with you, for those of you that are believers like I am, you're destroying your witness as you're fearful today. Concern is one thing, fear is another. And if I was someone looking for some peace and some solace and hope, I think I'd have to pass by you, because if you're fearful and you've got a God that you serve, I don't guess I want any part of that, because that's what I got now, right? I don't know if you've ever driven a car backwards, but if you're looking forward, going 60 miles an hour, that's all right. But try going forward, looking backward at 60. That's going to be erected, be one for the record books, right? So let's do better as believers and spreading that kindness and that hope and that love. And tonight's an election night. We all know it. It'll probably drag out for weeks or months or whatever. It'll come and it'll go. Whatever happens, God's still on the throne. If you believe like that, live like that. And let's squash the hate that's surely to come by those that don't believe as it comes down the pipe over the next few hours, few weeks, few months. Learn to love, right? I guess that would be my message tonight. No matter what, we serve the ruler of rulers. And he's got it in control, whether it goes your way or not. He'll make it work, right? Well, it's done got dark on me. Goats have hit the woods. And I said I'd do a roll call, so I better do that real quick. And we'll call it a night. Probably lost half of y'all. That's all right, too, I guess. We used to have a saying at work. Had those early morning meetings, 6 o'clock in the morning. Mandatory meeting. Well, it's always punitive, but not everybody would show up, but would have some that were really important. And I'd ask the general manager, I said, man, is everybody going to be here? He said, well, the leaders will be. They'll still be here. So thank you to the leaders that stayed this long, right? And let me get up here. I done dropped my spectacles somewhere, y'all. You'll have to bear with me a minute. Let me try to scroll back through. It's going to be tough in low light, these old 50-year-old eyes. Let's see. Look forward to live posts. Let me see. Kath, I got to find these glasses, y'all. I need to holler at Jordan. I think it's Kathy. I'm going to go back through, I guess, and be a little bit more diligent tonight when I get my spectacles on. I had them in my pocket, and y'all, they done fell out. The goat probably ate them. Mildred, good to see you, ma'am. There's Dale, howdy. Don, I believe it's... No, Doris, I'm sorry. See how bad them eyes are? Lord goodness. Kenneth Cantrell checking in. How are you, buddy? There's Miss Heidi on the north side of NAC. Good to see you checking in. Matthew Cruz from Georgia. Maybe if I get further back. Shavers, awesome message and stories. Thank you for that. Let's see. Regina Gibson from South Mississippi is checking in. There's Kathy Kuhn. I believe I got that right. Fair brother. I think that's right. So grateful to the words and importance of these applications. That's right. Miss Holly Marie Zone, good to see you on, ma'am. I hope you're well. Carol Chapman's in Illinois. My sister's on. Howdy, howdy. I bet she wouldn't talk Dad either. And he wasn't a mean man. That's not it. It was a matter of respect. And I think we've all learned as parents how hard that is to have to discipline your child and how much it hurts you. So Dad's as meek as a lamb, but he's got a firm resolve. So I don't want that to be misconstrued at all. And he sure did protect us, and he'd come to me in a heartbeat. I don't care if I was in Kalamazoo. He'd go all night to get to me, no matter what. That's just, that's what a loving father does. And he was sure a good example of our Heavenly Father, still is. There's Mr. Bob. How are you, sir? Kathy Harris, good to see you checking in. Susie, I'm having trouble with these S's, y'all. Guess they're all, oh man, these eyes. Didn't realize it was this bad. Matthew, howdy, good to see you. Kathy checking in again. Regina saying howdy again. I can see Shavers, I think that's right. Thank y'all. Sassafras Blunt, I believe. Debbie Mahoney, my friend down Temple Way, checking in. Rodney saying howdy. There's Matthew Cruz. It doesn't help y'all with glasses on to type the name, because I try to help me because I'm not going to see it. There's Doug. Good to see you. Steve Cummings is saying howdy. Mike. Mike, hi, great message tonight. Whoever you are, thank you for checking in. There's Benita Johnson from Arkansas. Daniel saying howdy from Pennsylvania. Ooh, that's going to be a rough state tonight. Bless y'all. Sandrew saying howdy. Karen. Rodney again saying Georgia. There's Miss Shasta McCord. Let's see, look at all the states. Yeah, there's a lot of them, Shasta. I'm going to have to go back through here and personally thank y'all because I'm failing on reading tonight. There's Don from Delaware and Cindy. Need to hear that in Tyler. Okay, thank y'all. Well, I'm going to have a backup pair of glasses, aren't I? Oh, man. Well, that's all right, too. But y'all have a blessed night and find some peace in knowing that God is in control no matter, right? And don't mess up your witness out there with all this fear. You serve a Heavenly Father that's got it all in control and will forever have it in control. For those of y'all that haven't followed the podcast, I got to throw this in there. I've got the Washboard Journey, Washboard Sirens throw me off, y'all. I'm sorry. The Washboard Chronicles Journey to Restoration. I'm going through and uploading about 5 a day. These are the old videos from 2018 of the progress of this place, and some of y'all might enjoy that in an audio fashion. And then we got the parables, all the little short stories that we share each day. Sometimes if you're on the go, it might be easier to listen to the audio version of it, and all those are in a nice, neat little playlist. It's on Amazon and iTunes and Spotify. You can find it that way. I think I've got a few links on the page. The one I'm most happy about and looking forward to sharing with y'all is our Washboard Roots. We were going to call it Philosophies, but that just doesn't capture it for me as much as I'd love to. It's all about roots and foundation for us, and we've already started production on it. Got a couple of episodes in the books, but I want to make sure that we've got enough to keep ahead of the curve, right? So we're getting done with about 5 or 6 guests, and then we'll start releasing them probably sometime in December. And those are going to be enjoyable. Based on the conversations we've had thus far on that old porch, some good stuff. It gets me to even thinking. So that's not hard to do, thinking all the time. Just hope it's worth thinking about, right? All right, it's dark. The goats are looking at me crazy. They need a little feed. We had a little mishap with one of them this morning. For the subscribers, they know all about it. But for subscribers listening, we'll update in a little while. She's still making it. I think we're going to be okay. We're just avoiding some stress-induced stuff right now. But she's coming in the house tonight in the kennel. So she's going to have a good night inside. Y'all have a good evening. Be the light and stay strong. And don't be scared. He's got this. Good night, y'all.